Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Today Fantasy Flight released a ton of blue spoilers for Legacies. We have both hero and villain cards. A lot of really cool stuff here. We're just going to go take a look at the cards, going to discuss them, give my thoughts on them and all that. So the very first card up here we have is Maul, Vengeful One. 11 health, 12 or 16 points, depending on if you want to run a single die or run him at Elite. 2 melee damage, 3 melee damage for a resource, disrupt, discard, resource, and blank, and a pretty cool ability. So after one or more of this character's character or upgrade dice are removed by an opponent's card effect, you may remove one of their dice. So if they electroshock one of your dice, you are then able to remove one of their dice as well. Pretty cool. So you're basically, if you are playing removal against Maul, you're going to want to make sure that he's the only character activated, or your opponents are the only characters that are out. So if you do use something like Electroshock, then Maul won't be able to remove one of your dice if you haven't rolled anything in yet. But good point. So 12-16. So you can pair him with an Elite 7th Sister. Run just a ton of melee damage. Even more melee damage if you roll in the 7th Sister with the ID9 Seeker Droid, which gets stronger. The more ID9 Seeker Droids are, in the dice pool. Look at the side. So he has two really good damage signs. One's a pay side, but 3 for a resource is pretty good, I think. Health, I think it would have been better if it was at 12. That may have been too strong, so I think 11 is still pretty good. But we finally have Maul, and I also love the flavor text. Formerly Darth, now just Maul. So, decent sides, decent health, and a pretty cool ability that's going to make people very cautious about playing removal. So they're going to have to say, do I really want to get rid of that 3 melee damage and also risk them removing my big damage die as well? So, pretty cool, interesting options with Maul. So we're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Maul's Lightsaber. This thing is just insane. So, 3 resources, blue character only, weapon upgrade, 2 melee damage, plus 2 melee, plus 3 melee, plus 4 melee, resource blank, and none of these sides are resource costed at all. I know there's some modified sides on some dice that will be a high modifier for resource. None of that here. I also like that it has a resource side on it, so it's bait and switchable, so you can roll this out on the resource, bait and switch. Let's say you have Maul on his 2 melee, bait and switch this to a 4 melee, and then resolve 6 melee damage. So again, blue character only, and a power action, so you can do this once per round. If an opponent has no shields on all of their characters, roll this die into your pool. So let's say you do a bunch of damage with this and Maul, and then you take off all your opponent's shields. Your opponents then have no shields. You then are able to power action this die back into the pool. So once per round, you get to roll it back in if your opponent's characters don't have any shields. And especially with stuff like Intimidate, so you can intimidate their shields off. Let's say they're down to 1 character. You intimidate off all their shields. You then roll this die into your pool, maybe resolve it, maybe then roll it again later if you activate Maul as well. Because I don't know if you roll it and resolve it, if you then activate Maul, if this is attached to him, I would imagine both get a roll in at once. Similar with FN's ability, where you would roll a die, resolve it, put it back on the card, and then when you activate FN, get to roll that in as well. I think that's the case here, but 3 resources is insane for this. So you have 4 damage sides plus this power action, all for 3 resources. Just by looking at the sides alone, you would think this would maybe cost 4, but they're giving it to you for 3 resources, which I think is just insane. So really looking forward to playing with this on maybe even on just Vader or any other melee villain. You don't have to have it on Maul, but some really cool sides here. So we have those total of 4 damage sides, and especially like high modifiers with no resource cost is just really cool. So that is Maul's Lightsaber. We're going to take a look at our next card. And next up we have Palpatine Darth Sidious. So kind of like what they did with Vader in Awakenings, they gave us a lower costed, lower health version of Vader in Spirit of Rebellion. So this Palpatine has 12 health, 16 or 20 points, and then has 2 range damage, 2 melee damage, 2 indirect damage, resource, and blank, and the power action. Play an event from your hand, decreasing its cost by the number of different damage symbols showing on your dice. So you can decrease it by 3 if you have range damage, melee damage, and indirect damage showing. So let's say your opponents have a couple blanks, and you have all 3 damage sides showing. You can power action to play the "It Will All Be Mine" card from Empire at War, which lets you flip your opponent's blanks to sides of your choice and then resolve them. Get that out for free if you happen to have 3 dice, or at least 3 dice, with one of each symbol on them. So 1 range, 1 melee, 1 indirect. 1620, so you can run them at elite with like a 10-point character. It could be pretty good. Royal Guard, possibly, maybe Magna Guard. Have a point left over, point or two left over for some plots. I think the health is good. His sides are pretty strong. I like that he has the double resources, so you can get some of those bigger costed upgrades out, like your mind probes and things. You can also just play holocron on him as well. I also like that it has all 3 damage types, so you're able to kind of create this hybrid damage deck that is maybe potentially running um, ranged weapons and melee weapons, and possibly indirect weapons or characters that also have indirect damage. Pretty interesting card. I'm going to be looking forward to trying this out. Not sure who I would pair him with. Maybe aside from like something like Royal Guard, we could do Guardian off damage to keep Palpatine alive, and then use that power action to play those more expensive events. So that is Palpatine / Darth Sidious. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Double Strike. 2 resources, blue villain event. Resolve one of your dice showing melee damage without removing it from your pool. So kind of similar to My Ally is the Force. This doesn't have ambush. You can give it ambush with something like Swiftness, but pay 2 resources, and then you can resolve let's say a 2 melee damage, and then later, if you have, and then since that die is still out, resolve the rest of your melee dice as well. I also like this pairs well with the new Palpatine. So if you have melee damage and indirect damage showing, you can use that power action, play this for free, do the melee damage, and then on your next turn, resolve that die again with all the other melee damage dice that you may have out. So that is Double Strike. Again, you can get it out for free with Palp. I think it's pretty interesting. Especially, it's kind of, like I said, kind of like My Ally is the Force, except it's only villain melee damage dice, and you don't get ambush out of it. But if you were to give it ambush, you'd be able to resolve that die, keep it in, and then resolve the rest of it all in one action if you were to have 3 resources and Swiftness this in. So that is Double Strike. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Snare, blue villain event, 3 resources. Play only if you have 1 or more exhausted characters, exhaust a character. So 3 resources to, let's say you roll out your character, they roll out their character, they still have a character to roll out. You pay the 3 resources, and you exhaust their other character, making it so they can't roll that character out. 3, kind of expensive, but really strong effect, making them not be able to roll a character for an entire round or force them to use something like leadership to ready that character is a pretty strong effect. And this costs 3, so if you had, again with the new Palpatine, if you had range, melee, and indirect damage showing, you can use this power action to play this for free, because you're going to have Palpatine probably rolled out, maybe another character, and then you can use that power action if you have all 3 damage types showing to then play Snare for free, exhausting your opponent's character. Pretty strong effect. So that is Snare. Pretty simple. You pay 3, exhaust them. Pretty good card. So we're going to move into our next card. And next up we have Yoda, Wizened Master. 10 health, 10 or 13 points, no blanks on this character, which is really cool. So 2 focus, disrupt, discard, shield, 2 specials, and again, no blanks. Really cool special too. So he's a Jedi character, legendary of course. Special, choose and do 2 of the following. Gain a resource, give a character 1 shield, turn 1 of your dice to any side, or discard the top card of a deck. This is really strong. I think he's going to pair well with a lot of people, a lot of characters, because he's 10-13, so even at a single die, you can get him in like a deck that has a 20-point character, or if you have a 17-point character. I'm thinking of pairing him with Qui-Gon, because you have the shield side on Yoda. Qui-Gon is 17 for elite. You can get an elite Yoda for 13. And then his special, you'll be able to give Qui-Gon a shield, which would, of course, trigger his ability if he already had a shield on him. And then his Other part of the special, you can turn a die to any side. So let's say you have a force throw out or something like that. Can um, use the special on Yoda to turn that force throw into its special if it's on something else. And then, since you're still resolving specials, get to resolve the force throw as well, or any other special that you may turn to. So you may use Yoda to turn a force speed to a special, resolve that special, and then get 2 more actions as well. 10 health, so I think that's fairly in line because this version of Yoda is not necessarily the the combat Yoda we saw in like episode 2 and episode 3. This is the Empire Strikes Back Yoda, so he's not really going to be doing damage on his own, but he'll be focusing, disrupting, discarding, giving shields, and then using these other effects to either gain resources, gain a shield, turn a die to any side, or discard a card off of the deck. Should be pretty cool. So that is Yoda. Really looking forward to trying him out, especially with Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon is 17, Yoda is 13. So it could be really interesting to see how he works out with this kind of like emerging shield meta that's going to be coming up. There's a lot of really cool shield cards coming out as well, and we'll get to those in just a moment. So that is Yoda. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Force Meditation, 2 resources. This is a blue hero upgrade ability. 1 focus, 1 shield, 1 resource, 2 specials, and a blank. Spot a blue character to play it, and special discard the top 2 cards of a deck. So could go really well in a mill deck, especially if you're running like the Riken Rainbow mill deck, where it's Riken, possibly Padme, and a blue non-unique. You can have this on any character. You just have to spot blue to play it, and then get the special, discard the top 2 cards off the deck. So you're going to be activating Riken, milling cards based on how many characters have shields, and then possibly milling more cards with this. So we have some really good sides here. I like that it has 2 specials, a resource shield, and a focus. So you can focus into if you play this in an aggro deck, you can focus into melee damage. You can use it in a Qui-Gon deck with the shields to trigger his ability. And then also the mill ability, the mill special is pretty cool. So I think I might test this out in currently my Riken deck is Riken Padme Maz, but I may swap Maz out for like Jedi Instructor or one of the other blue characters to try it with this, because whenever you do the special on this, you're discarding 2 cards off the top. That's really cool. So that is Force Meditation. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Alia Sakura, Jedi General, 10 health, 912, so more health than her initial point value for a single die. That's always cool. And we have 3 damage sides. So we have a 1 melee, 2 indirect, resource, special, and blank. And her special, turn one of your blue or red dice to any side, turn opponent's die to any side. So again, if you have multiple dice that have specials, you can use this special to turn that your die to a special, then resolve that special. I also like that it lets you turn an opponent's die as well. So you can turn your die to damage or to another special, and turn your opponent's die to a blank. And then again, 912, so fairly low health, or not low health, fairly low points, so she pairs with quite a few different characters. 10 health is pretty good as well. And then we have 3 damage sides. We have those 2 melee sides and the indirect, and her really interesting special lets you flip one of your dice and flip one of your opponent's dice. So that is Alia Sakura. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Defensive Teaching, 0 cost, hero blue support. Each of your blue characters can have 1 additional shield. So this is one of the cards I was talking about where shields are just going to get insane. So you play this, your blue characters can now have up to 4 shields. I imagine if you're playing blue-yellow, you can have a Mandalorian armor on that character as well and have up to 5 shields, because that gives a shield and lets them have 1 additional shield. This allows them to have another additional shield. I'm not really sure how that interaction is going to work, or if those will actually stack, but that would be pretty interesting. So now, things like, if you're just doing this with 1 character, things like riposte are going to hit for a potential of 4. Obi-Wan's lightsaber is going to hit for a potential of 4 as well. So it gives you a shield, and then you deal damage, unblockable damage to a character based on the number of shields on a character. So if you have that on Qui-Gon, you give Qui-Gon a shield, do a damage with his ability. This is using the Obi-Wan saber special, and then do 4 unblockable damage because Qui-Gon now has 4 shields on him. So it gives a shield, and then does damage equal to the number of shields on that character. And then again, you can just riposte all those shields right off and potentially do like 8 damage very quickly. So you do 4 unblockable damage with Obi-Wan's Saber, and then another 4 damage with Riposte. So defensive teaching, definitely going to be going into shield decks. Definitely want to try this out in the Yoda Qui-Gon deck that I'm kind of theory crafting, kind of building currently on the deck builder. A lot of these cards currently aren't on the deck builder yet, but I'm kind of using like proxy cards to see how the deck would actually work. So that is defensive teaching. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Ataru Strike. 1 resource, blue hero event, another thing that does insane stuff with shields. So, resolve one of your blue dice showing melee damage, increasing its value by the number of shields on that character. So, let's say Qui-Gon has 4 shields on him with the defensive training. You can then play this. Let's say his 2 melee damage is showing, 2 melee side. You play Ataru Strike, pay the 1 resource. You then resolve his 2 plus the number of shields on him for 4 to resolve that die for 6 damage. That is just insane. Again, this is going to go in this deck I'm building with potentially Yoda and Qui-Gon, maybe caning Qui-Gon, I'm not really sure. But cards like this are definitely making shields a thing again, where after during Empire at War and before the errata, or not Empire at War, Spirit of Rebellion, and before the errata during Empire at War, Vibro Knives essentially just killed off shields. Nobody was really running shields. Were not doing anything really. And now I like that they nerfed the Vibro Knife and are now going to this whole shield meta, which is just really insane. So really looking forward to trying out the Ataru Strike, where imagine doing this on, let's say you're playing Mace Windu and you have 2 resources and you have his 4 melee showing and he has 4 shields from defensive stance as well. You pay the resource to play the Ataru Strike. You pay the resource to resolve his 4 melee damage. You're then doing 4 melee damage plus 4 damage from the shield and doing 8 damage, which is just completely insane. So looks like Hero is finally getting some love with this set. Really looking forward to playing a blue Hero deck for Legacies. So we're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Adapt, 0 resources, blue hero event. Pretty simple. Remove 1 shield from one of your characters to gain a resource. So if you really need a resource, you can remove a shield and get that resource, and then spend that resource on like that expensive upgrade you were trying to get, like that 4 cost or 3 cost upgrade. So you had 2 resources, and you had a character that has a ton of shields. Play this, remove a shield, get a resource. Pretty simple, pretty effective, really too. Especially if you have tons of characters that are just shielded up completely, can remove a shield and get a resource from it. So that is Adapt. We're going to move into our last card. And last up, we have the Hush 98 Comlink. The dice sides are kind of obstructed, but it looks like we have a 2 focus, a single focus, a modifier. I can't tell what the modifier is though, but it looks like 2 resources. And from what I can tell, as an action, you can remove this die to activate any number of your characters and/or supports in the order of your choice. So you roll this out on a character, you remove it, and then you can activate all of your other characters and supports. If you're running like a vehicle deck that you're splashing blue, you can roll this in and then activate your other character or characters, and then any supports as well. And again, looks like we have a 2 focus on there, a 1 focus. I think the other one might be that modifier might be a resource. I can't really tell. But yeah, we don't have the full die showing here. But I imagine this is probably one that has 2 blanks possibly, because it doesn't look like it has a special, because it just has this action to remove the die and then activate your other characters and supports. But the rest of this card fan was stuff that we already discussed, but the only one that wasn't fully revealed was this Comlink. So that's going to do it for this video. Super excited about Legacy, especially in both Hero and Villain Blue. Some really cool stuff coming out, especially with stuff like Maul and his Saber, which just do insane amounts of damage, all the way up to all the new shield stuff that you can now do with Qui-Gon. Again, we have Yoda, which would just be the awesome pairing for Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon is 17, Yoda is 13 for Elite. That would just be a really cool combination as well. So super excited for Legacies. We'll be doing more videos when more cards are revealed. Till then, that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching.